I moved into campus housing on a hot Sunday in August, the kind of day where the heat sticks to your skin and everything smells like fresh paint and leftover summer. Room 316, Foster Hall. My new home. It looked exactly like I'd imagined. Cinder block walls, dusty blinds, faint mildew in the corners. A desk, 2 beds, 2 dressers, and barely enough space to walk between them. But I didn't care. This was college. My escape. And when I opened the door, he was already there. He sat cross-legged on the bed by the window, earbuds in, pulling books from a cardboard box. He looked up when he noticed me and smiled like he'd been expecting me. "You must be Tyler." "Yeah. And you are?" "Zach." His handshake was firm, his voice warm. He had one of those outdoors of faces, tan skin, windblown hair, a scar above his left brow. Confident, but not cocky. He looked like someone who hiked on purpose. I liked him instantly. We spent the afternoon unpacking. He had a record player he'd rescued from a flea market and a chipped mug with a faded lightning bolt on it. "It's my lucky cup," he told me. "Don't touch it unless you want a week of bad sleep." We joked, we shared pizza, we stayed up too late comparing playlists and embarrassing high school stories. He asked real questions and listened. I hadn't met someone that easy to talk to in years. That night, I fell asleep thinking maybe college wouldn't be so bad after all. But when I woke up the next morning, he was gone. Not just gone for coffee or class, gone. His bed was neatly made, the mug was missing, the shelf was bare. Like he'd never been there. No books. No clothes. No records. Even the scent was different. Less lived in. At first, I figured he moved out early. Maybe he got reassigned. But something about the room felt erased. And then I checked the housing portal. Room 316 only listed one name. Mine. There was no record of a Zach. No roommate. Nothing. I went to the RA's office first. Her name was Jenna, a junior who wore a lanyard like a badge and talked to freshmen like we were 12. "Hey," I said. "I think my roommate moved out." She gave me a puzzled look. "Roommate? You're in 316, right?" "Yeah. Zach moved in with me yesterday." She tilted her head. "Tyler, there was no roommate assigned to that room this year." I stared. "No, I met him. We talked. We unpacked together. I shared pizza with him. He has a scar above his eyebrow. You must have seen him." Jenna pulled up the housing file. One entry. My name. Her brows pulled together. "You're the only one listed. Look, maybe it was someone visiting or a prank. Orientation week gets weird." I walked back to my room with a knot in my chest. Tried texting the number Zach gave me. The message failed. I went to the dining hall, asked the cashier if they remembered me eating with someone the night before. "You came in alone," they said without hesitation. I even walked the dorm hallway, knocked on the door of the guy across from me. "Hey, did you see my roommate yesterday?" "Tall guy?" "Zach." He shook his head. "Roommate? Dude, you moved in alone." It was like trying to grab Falk. No one remembered him. No trace of him anywhere. But I did. Every detail. His voice. His laugh. The exact shape of the lightning bolt on that chipped mug. I opened the closet one more time. Buried in the back corner, something small sat on the shelf. The mug. Cracked now. And inside it, a folded piece of paper. "You remember me. That means it's your turn." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed with the mug in my lap, reading those 6 words over and over. "You remember me. That means it's your turn." My turn for what? I thought about going to campus security, showing them the note. But what would I say? My imaginary roommate left me a message? I'd be laughed out of the office or sent to counseling. Instead, I turned the paper over. There was more on the back. A list. Names. 6 of them. All written in the same tight handwriting. Nick L. 2012. Hannah M. 2013. Eli R. 2014. Marissa V. 2015. Joel D. 2016. Zach A. 2023. Zach. His full name. And a date. This year. My skin went cold. What did these names have in common? People who'd lived in this room? Other students who disappeared? Why the yearly pattern? I searched online for every name. Spent hours digging through forums, social media, anything. Nothing on Joel. No trace of a Marissa. Hannah's Facebook hadn't been updated in a decade. Nick's name came up in a missing persons blog, but the details were vague. Eli R. Rang a bell though. I remembered hearing something during orientation week, a student who vanished in 2014. Supposedly dropped out. Never officially withdrawn. Room 316. I opened my desk drawer and grabbed the campus directory. Jenna, the RA, was listed. So were several other RAs. But when I checked the listing for housing history, only one entry came up under room 316. My name. Everyone else was missing. I started writing the names down in my own notebook, trying to find patterns, something to connect them. But as I wrote, I noticed something odd. Next to Zach's name, in red ink, was a symbol, a circle, with a line through it. That same symbol had been on the mug, scratched faintly into the base. And now, I noticed it had been drawn again, this time in permanent marker on the underside of my bed frame. I grabbed my phone and snapped a photo of the symbol under the bed, then slid to the floor and checked under the dresser, behind the door, even the underside of the windowsill. It was everywhere, drawn in pen, carved into paint, scratched lightly into the wooden frame of the mirror. The same circle with a line through it, over and over again. Some old and faded, some fresh. I wasn't the first. I ran my hand over the one beneath the desk and found another note, this one wedged behind the backboard, folded tight and taped flat. It read, "When you start seeing the signs, don't ignore them. Don't ask questions out loud. They listen. That's how they choose. No signature. Just that same symbol again, drawn beneath the warning like a seal." I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Who were they? What were they listening for? And how did any of this have to do with Zach or me? That's when I remembered something. Zach had been humming, the night we moved in, a tune I didn't recognize. Over and over, low and steady. I pulled out my laptop and opened a music app, hummed the tune into the mic, praying the search would turn something up. It did. An old folk song. Appalachian, apparently. A haunting melody with lyrics about shadows that follow you home, and voices that call when you're alone. The title? Room for One. I clicked play, and somewhere in the middle of the track, a line stood out. If you speak, they know. If you ask, you go. I paused the song. My heart was pounding. My ears felt hot. I looked around the room and, for the first time, noticed how quiet it was. No hallway noise. No footsteps above. No voices from next door. Just silence. And in that silence, I heard something move. Not outside. Inside the closet. I stood there, frozen, staring at the narrow seam of the closet door. It wasn't fully shut. I could see a sliver of shadow between the wood. The air around me shifted, like the room had stopped breathing, like it was waiting. I stepped forward and reached out, half expecting to hear a knock from the other side, or worse, feel someone knock back. But the knob was cold and still. I turned it slowly. The closet creaked open. Empty. No coats, no shoes, no forgotten boxes. Just the narrow walls and a faint mark on the back panel. That same circle with the line through it. But this time, it was glowing. Not bright, not obvious, just a soft pulse, like it had been drawn in invisible ink and suddenly activated. I stepped inside. Immediately, the air got colder. Not like drafty basement cold. It felt dense, like I was underwater. I reached out and touched the symbol. It was warm. The second my fingers brushed it, the door slammed shut behind me. Total darkness. I spun around, trying to find the knob, the wall, anything, but the space had changed. The closet wasn't a closet anymore. I was in a hallway. Narrow. Endless. The walls were made of the same cinder block as my dorm, lit by overhead lights that buzzed just faintly enough to be maddening. I walked. Each step felt too loud. Too slow. I tried my phone. No signal. No flashlight. Then I saw the first door. I opened it. Inside was a replica of my dorm room. Identical, down to the books on the shelf and the mug on the desk. Except this time, Zach was in the bed, sleeping. I stepped closer, reached out. He opened his eyes. "Took you long enough," he whispered. "Where am I?" "Same place I went. Same place they all go. You touched the mark, didn't you?" "What is this place?" "It's the echo," he said. "The part they leave behind." I stepped back. He was fading. "Don't ask questions. Just listen. There's one way out, Tyler. Only one." "What is it?" "Make them forget you, before you forget yourself." Then he was gone. I turned around. The door had vanished, and the hallway stretched out again in both directions, lined with doors, each one marked 316. I stood in that hallway lined with identical doors, each stamped with the number 316, and felt my grip on reality slipping thread by thread. I didn't know which way to walk. Every direction looked the same. I chose a door at random. Behind it, another version of the room. Slight differences this time. The mug on the desk had a chip on the opposite side. The bed was unmade. The photo of Zach's family was face down. No one was inside, but a voice echoed faintly from nowhere and everywhere at once. The room remembers you before you remember yourself. I turned and the door behind me was gone again. Another hallway. More doors. My breath was shallow now. My chest tight. I tried to mark my steps with scratches on the walls, but the lines disappeared behind me the moment I turned away. I passed a door that was slightly ajar. Light spilled out like moonlight on water. I pushed it open. Inside, I saw myself. At my desk, headphones on, typing. It was the night before move-in. I was back in my room at home, my backpack leaning against the dresser. Everything was normal, except I looked tired, hollow. The other me turned and looked at me. "You've been here before," he said. "You just forgot." I stumbled back. The light from the room blinked out and the door vanished. I began running. Door after door. Hallway after hallway. My heart pounding. My legs weak. Finally, I stopped. Bent over. Tried to breathe. Then I noticed a door slightly open. Inside wasn't a room. It was a bulletin board. Suspended in darkness. Glowing faintly. Papers pinned to it. Yearbook photos. Student IDs. Names I recognized. Nick. Hannah. Eli. Marissa. Joel. Zach. Mine. A space below my photo. Labeled. Status. In progress. Then the paper moved. Not by wind, by choice. Like it was alive. A whisper echoed behind me. Remembering is how it finds you. Forgetting is the only escape. I turned, but no one was there. Then a voice, not a whisper this time, but clear, deliberate, spoke from inside the walls. One more door. One more chance. Behind me, a final door had appeared. But this one wasn't marked 316. It was marked with my name. Tyler R. I stared at the door labeled Tyler R., the letters etched deep into the wood like they'd always been there. My hand hovered over the knob, but I hesitated. What if opening it sealed something? What if it was already too late? But behind me, the other doors were vanishing, swallowed by shadows. One by one. Until only this one remained. I turned the knob. The room inside looked like the original 316. But everything was older, sepia-toned, like a memory from someone else's life. Dust floated in the still air. The window was cracked, taped clumsily, and the bed was perfectly made. On the desk sat a cassette player. Next to it, a note. "Play this. Then choose." I pressed play. A voice began, shaky at first, then clearer. "Mine, but older. If you're hearing this, it means you followed the marks. You asked too many questions. You didn't forget when you should have. That's how it starts. This place, it isn't a trap. It's a filter. It keeps the ones who look too closely, who remember too much. We vanish because we can't unsee what's behind the veil." I sat down slowly, heart in my throat. You have one shot to leave. But it means forgetting. Everything. Zach. The names. The room. Even this message. There's a mirror behind the wardrobe. If you look into it and speak your name, they'll let you go. But only if you truly don't want the truth anymore. The tape clicked off. I stood and pulled the wardrobe aside. There was the mirror. My reflection stared back, but something was wrong. The reflection was blinking out of sync, half a beat behind, as if it were thinking. Then it smiled. I didn't. And then it whispered. "Say it. Say your name." But I couldn't. Not yet. Because on the back of the wardrobe, etched with a fingernail, was another name. Zach A. Scratched below it. He chose to forget. But he didn't forget you. Now it's your turn. My breath fogged the mirror. I was still staring at my reflection, offbeat, blinking late, smiling when I wasn't. It didn't feel like a reflection anymore. It felt like something trying to wear me. "Say your name," it whispered again. I backed away. The room flickered, like a projector losing sync. For a second, everything around me turned grayscale, then back again. Just hung frozen in midair. I turned toward the cassette player again, rewound the tape, played it back. Same message, same voice, same warning. If you want to leave, forget. I didn't want to forget. I wanted answers. What happens if I don't say it? I whispered. The mirror replied with silence. Then a crack appeared, snaking down its center. The reflection still smiled. I walked to the desk and opened the drawers. Inside were stacks of old notes, drawings of the symbol, maps of the dorm, different configurations, as if the building changed. One had a hallway circled in red ink, labeled the original exit. At the bottom of the pile, a journal. Zach's journal. The entries were short, erratic. He was losing time. He wrote about waking up in new rooms, hearing voices that weren't his. He wrote about watching someone who looked like him take over. And finally, if you remember, you can rewrite it, but only if you break the mirror. They hate the truth, and they hate being seen. My hands were shaking. I stood up and faced the mirror. I'm not leaving, I said. Not like this. And I threw the chair. The mirror shattered with a sound like glass and thunder and wind, all screaming at once. The room pulsed, warped. And then, it changed. I was back in my dorm. Real dorm. 316. Morning sun pouring through the blinds. My laptop open. My bed unmade. And across the room, Zach. Sitting up. Blinking. You came back, he said, voice hoarse. I rushed to him. Grabbed his arm. We're not done. He nodded. Then we keep going. Together. But taped to the inside of the closet door now. New paper, fresh ink. You broke the cycle. They're watching. You only have until the next name is written. And below that, a blank line. Waiting. Zach and I stared at the blank line on the paper. How long do we have? I asked. He didn't answer. Just walked over to the closet and peeled the note off the door. He held it like it might burn. It changes every time, he said. Sometimes hours. Sometimes days. And if a name gets written, then someone disappears. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to piece together what had really happened. If we broke the cycle, why was there still a warning? Had we really escaped, or just moved into a different part of the trap? We decided to find the others. Nick, Hannah, Eli, Marissa, Joel. If they'd left behind any trace, any clue, we had to find it. Maybe they were still alive. Maybe they remembered. We started with the dorm archives. There was an office in the basement no one ever used, lined with metal file cabinets and dust-choked vents. It smelled like wet cardboard and forgotten things. The records were thin. Years were missing. Pages torn. But we found a lead, an old incident report on Joel D., filed the same day he went missing. Location, Foster Hall. Room 316. It listed a witness, Jenna M. Our RA. She never said a word about it. I whispered. Maybe she doesn't remember, Zach said. Or maybe she does and won't say. That night, we knocked on her door. Jenna opened it, surprised. You two okay? We need to talk about Joel, I said. She paled, just for a second. Then she forced a smile. I don't know what you mean. You do, I said. You were listed in the report. You saw something. She looked around the hallway, then stepped aside. 5 minutes, she said. Then you leave, and we never speak of this again. We sat on her futon, surrounded by string lights and posters of bands she probably didn't listen to anymore. Joel knocked on my door that night, she said quietly. He said the walls in his room were talking to him, that he could hear names. He looked lost. Did anyone else see him? No. By the time I got there, the room was empty. No Joel. Just a name scratched into the wall. Whose name? I asked. She hesitated. Mine. The room felt colder after she said it. You mean, the wall said your name? I asked. Jenna nodded. Her fingers twisted around the edge of a blanket on her lap. It was carved deep. Not like someone used a pen. More like it had been etched. Like it was always there. Zach looked at me. We didn't say anything, but we were thinking the same thing. The cycle had almost taken her too. Did anything else happen that night? I asked. I started forgetting things, she whispered. Small stuff at first. My class schedule. People's names. Then I forgot Joel. Completely. Until you showed me that file. She stood, crossed to her desk, and opened a drawer. She pulled out a small notebook, worn, cracked along the spine, and handed it to me. I started writing everything down, in case it happened again. Inside were scribbled notes, sketches of the symbol, dreams she'd had, glimpses of names she couldn't place. On one page, she'd drawn a mirror, broken, and underneath, in block letters. Do not speak. Do not follow. Do not remember. I think forgetting is the only protection, she said. But now I remember. And so do you. A knock came at the door. Not from the hall. From her closet. We all froze. You heard that? She asked. Zach nodded. That's how it starts. Jenna stepped backward. You need to go? Now. We're not leaving you, I said. Then take this, she said, shoving the notebook into my hands. And don't come back. We stepped into the hallway. Her door clicked shut behind us. A second later, the lights above flickered. What do we do now? Zach asked. I looked down at the notebook. At the next page, where something had already begun to write itself in shaky, curling ink. The next name, and it was spelling out mine. Tyler. Zach and I rushed back to our room. I dropped the notebook onto my desk and stared at the ink as it continued to write, curling letters like something was drawing them from the other side of the paper. Tyler R. Beneath it, 5 o'clock. A countdown. We had 5 hours. We need to stop it, I said. How? Zach asked. You said the mirror was part of it. The reflection. What if it's still here? We searched every surface, pulled furniture from the walls, checked behind every poster, every tile. Nothing. Then Zach lifted his mattress and paused. There, etched into the frame, was the circle with the line. But this one was cracked. What does that mean? It's damaged. Maybe we're not stuck in the same loop anymore, he said. I grabbed my phone and opened the notes Jenna gave us. One page had a sketch of the basement, an older layout, different from what we'd seen. It showed a hidden room behind the boiler. She marked this. Buried memories, I read. We went down. The basement groaned with age. Pipes hissed, lights buzzed. Behind the boiler, we found the panel. Loose. We pushed it aside. Inside was a room no bigger than a closet. Dusty. And on the floor, a stack of videotapes. Each one labeled with a year. 2012, 2013, 2014, up to 2023. I picked up 2016 and slid it into a nearby player. A monitor hummed to life. Joel. Sitting cross-legged. Talking to someone off camera. You have to break the cycle, he said. But it means becoming part of it. One person stays behind. The other walks free. It's the only way. I looked at Zach. It's a trade. He nodded. Silent. You were the last to leave, I said slowly. You brought me in. Now it's me. We still have time, he whispered. There's another way. We just have to find it. The timer in the notebook ticked down. 3:47. We watched more tapes. Hannah. Marissa. Each one fading. Each one repeating the same phrase. One stays. One forgets. And the notebook flipped another page on its own. Choose. Stay or forget. I'm not letting you take my place, I said. Zach looked me dead in the eye. Then we find the exit no one's tried before. What's that? He held up the last tape. It wasn't labeled. We record our own. The camcorder's red light blinked as Zach pressed record. We sat side by side in room 316, the notebook between us. The ink had stopped moving. My name sat at the top of the page like a verdict waiting to be carried out. Say something, Zach whispered. I leaned forward. If you're watching this, it means the rules changed. Or we changed them. Zach took over. Every year someone disappears. And no one remembers. Not really. But the walls do. The room does. I held up the cracked symbol from under the bed, now drawn again, perfectly, in the margins of the notebook. We tried forgetting. Didn't work. We tried hiding. That didn't work either. But this is the one thing they've never seen. Us remembering. Us telling. We finished the tape, labeled it 2024, and left it in the room, right next to the stack. Then we packed. We didn't know what would happen when the clock hit 0. But we were tired of being scared. Tired of following rules someone or something set long before us. At 11:59, we stood in the hallway. Are you ready? Zach asked. No, I said. But let's go anyway. We turned and walked down the stairs. Out through the lobby. Into the cold, early morning air. Behind us, the dorm windows flickered once. And then, nothing. We kept walking. Neither of us looked back. Epilogue. Weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, a plain cassette. A sticky note taped to the front. For the next one. And written on the back. Room 316 remembers. But you don't have to.